Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you for tuning in to Canal Algérie's nightly news. On to the headlines. The French newspaper L'Express reveals the Moroccan-French deal relating to a reversal of the position concerning Western Sahara. Western Sahara gets a considerable support during the UN debate on decolonization, urging for self-determination and southern independence. Domestically, Morocco is the scene of protest movements against normalization with a Zionist entity. Welcome back. Obligation de quitter le territoire français is a measure strongly favored by the French far right, and it has been the subject of a deal between French authorities and the Makhzen. According to l'Express newspaper, Morocco agreed to take back its nationals in exchange for the dramatic shift that President Emmanuel Macron made regarding his stance on Western Sahara. Manal Maafa explains.
By asserting the Makhzen sovereignty over Sahrawi territories, France is stirring the pot and shifting the dynamics in a sensitive issue. This decision marks a break from decades of diplomatic caution. This stance comes after months of intense discussions between the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Interior. At the heart of these talks lies a delicate question, which is the fate of undocumented Moroccans in France. A former senior official from the Ministry of Interior revealed that an agreement had been negotiated, stipulating that Morocco would accept the return of a greater number of individuals under orders to leave French territories in exchange for an increase in the much-needed consular travel permits. France, forced to keep individuals without legal status on its soil without these essential documents, faces complex situations. Although no quota or travel permits has been set, a commitment was requested, highlighting the importance of this new dynamic in French-Moroccan relations. The significance of this development has been underscored in the recent events, raising questions about the mechanisms in place for expelling individuals. This context sheds light on the complex issues shaping relations between France and Morocco, as well as the urgency for France to carefully manage the constantly evolving diplomatic landscape.
Also in the Sahrawi issue, Germany announced the acceptance of the decision of the European Court of Justice concerning the agreements between the EU and Morocco in agriculture and fishing. The spokesperson of the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the MENA region states that her country respects the independence of the institution, the same institution who ruled in favor of the Sahrawi people and the illegality of the exploitation of the resources by Morocco. This decision was noted in the UN Fourth Commission's decolonization debate, where petitioners worldwide defended the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and called for an end to Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara. Manal Maafa again.
In the dock, the regime's representatives were left speechless, unable to respond to petitioners from around the world who came to defend the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination and to demand an end to Morocco's prolonged occupation of Western Sahara. This moment reflects the mounting international pressure on Morocco as global advocates for Sahrawi independence raise their voices in defense of human rights and self-determination. The regime's silence in the face of these calls reveals the difficulty in justifying its stance on this enduring conflict. The situation faced by the Sahrawi people after a half-century of war, colonialism and the plundering of their resources alongside various human rights violations is a disgrace to the international community and international law. We are here to sound the alarm and emphasize the need to find a solution to this conflict. The Sahrawi people have their own identity, which is entirely different from the Moroccan identity. Participants in this session highlighted the legal status of Western Sahara, relying on various UN General Assembly and Security Council resolutions. In this context, they recalled the recent ruling by the European Court of Justice on Western Sahara, which invalidated trade agreements between the European Union and Morocco. This underscores the ongoing legal battle over Western Sahara status and emphasizes the global push for a resolution that respects Sahrawi self-determination. The UN called upon to ensure peace in Western Sahara in accordance with General Assembly Resolutions 1415 and International Court Resolutions 2625, which addressed various issues, particularly fishing. The lies and allegations spun by the Makhzen over the years to mislead public opinion are collapsing thanks to historical documents and testimonies confirming Western Sahara's autonomy. It is time to set the record straight and reveal the truth. Nations that respect themselves, whether in Europe or elsewhere, and uphold international law can never accept or continue to overlook Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara. The Makhzen regime is now tarnished after revelations have once again demonstrated that it obeys the Zionist entity and implements the plans decided to it by the same entity.
Moroccan students took once again to the streets to reject the Makhzen normalization with the Zionist entity. The demonstrators called for a general strike throughout the country to support the Gazan and Lebanese resistance. More details with Sanim Merah.
Disgruntled Moroccan students called for a general strike at the nation's universities to reject all forms of academic cooperation with the Zionist entity, denouncing the normalization agreement signed between the Moroccan and the Zionist universities.
تؤكد على استمرارنا في الاحتجاج والتصعيد إلى أن تسقط جميع اتفاقية التطبيع.
Today, thousands of them, backed by citizens, took to the street to voice their anger and display their determination to carry on struggling against the current policy and to clearly reject all forms of cooperation deemed as a betrayal.
إلى جانب الشعب المغربي لنقول للمطبع لنقول للمتخاذل أننا ما زلنا وكنا وسنظل ننكر معاهدة الطبيع ونناشد الدولة بفسخ هذه المعاهدة.
The Moroccan Union for Teachers and Scientific Research denounced as well the normalization policy and called for ending academic and scientific partnership with the Zionist entity.
Algeria's ambassador to the UN, Ammar bin Jam al-Din, announced the stranglehold imposed by the Zionist army in recent days on the Jabalia area in northern Gaza, and the threats against hospitals where thousands of wounded and refugees are hiding. 400,000 people are surrounded by the occupation forces who continuously attack the enclave. A UN investigation accuses the Zionist entity of crimes against humanity for its attacks on medical personnel, while dozens of Palestinians were killed this Thursday. In Lebanon, the Zionist war machinery persists in its airstrikes and ground incursion. The United Nations interim forces in Lebanon were also attacked by a tank of the occupier, injuring 2 blue helmets, while opening fire on another UN position. Rome accuses the Zionist entity of possible war crimes. France, for its part, demands explanations while the occupation forces intensify their raids on towns in the south of the country. From the UN Security Council, Algeria called for a fair balance between the fight between the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and the peaceful use of nuclear energy, adding that it is necessary to find an appropriate balance between the need for the peaceful use of nuclear technologies as a tool for socio-economic development and the imperative to protect the world against their misuse. The right to use these technologies and equipment for peaceful purposes should clearly be reaffirmed. This call was made during the proceedings of the Security Council's 1,540 committee established to implement the resolution of the fight against the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Sports now, the national football team defeated the Togolese side with 3-1 as part of the 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifiers in a game held at Annaba Stadium. Algeria's goals were scored by Saïd Ben Rahmat Wais, Hussam Awar, Amin Gouiri and Mohamed Amin Amoura. With these results, Algeria tops always Group E with 9 points before taking on Togo once again next Monday in the second leg match. 5-0 was the final score of the match. And with that, we end tonight's bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.